Hello, cool people. Thanks so much for spending some of your time with us. Very excited for today's session, where we have Madeleine James, an AIE grad working in the simulation space. Madeleine's going to be here talking about her journey from student to working in simulation for a company called Sentient Computing, and we're going to be showing you a whole bunch of cool things that Madeleine's worked on. Simulation is definitely one of those industries that not too many people think about before coming to AIE, but it is a huge area, not just in Australia, but globally. But I'll pass you across to Jess now, who'll introduce Madeleine and give us a bit more cool info.
Cool. Thank you so much, Craig, and thank you, Madeleine, so much for joining us this evening and answering a bunch of questions for us.
No problem. It was my pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So let's just start. So obviously you're alumni from AIE. Can you tell us what course and what year you graduated in?
So I studied 3D game art, and I graduated in 2016.
Cool. So yeah, a couple of years out now. So what have you been doing since you graduated?
So I worked for a short while at a company called Ludus Codicis, which was an app development company, and that was aimed all about mostly doing 2D graphic design. And then I started working about 6 months out of graduating. I started working for Sentient Computing, which is a training and simulations company, which predominantly develops content for the resource industry, so mostly mining, oil and gas.
Wow, that's so interesting. And at Sentient, was that a goal that you wanted to get to, or you kind of just fell into that job?
No, so I always wanted to go into sort of simulation, or I'm not really a gamer, so even though I love the craft of it, I didn't feel I had a lot to offer. So I was always interested in more other applications of 3D art and CAD development, that sort of thing. So yeah, I definitely looked for opportunities where in doing sort of simulations or serious gaming. And yeah, Sentient really interested me because they, were starting to do work with virtual reality, which I thought had amazing sort of potential in the future and would be really exciting to work in.
And what sparked your interest in getting into 3D?
So I was really lucky that I had a high school that offered a CAD program. So this was a sort of very basic sort of design using Rhino, which was at the time was amazing. But then I lucky went into a college. So I fell in love with that, and then I went into college where I got in opportunities to do classes in, again, computer-aided design and then 3D animation. And while there, they also offered an opportunity to do the AIE Cert 2 program. So that's kind of just all of that exposure to doing 3D modeling and design, and it was just fun. So that's sort of, I knew I wanted to do more of it, so why not get paid to do it?
Yeah, totally. And it must have been so interesting being at AIE with a whole bunch of students around who are just such avid gamers, and you're just here going, I want to do simulation.
Yeah. Look, I like to say I was very valuable in their group projects and stuff. In that, if I could play their games, they were set for a market of sort of 5 to 6 year olds. But I like to think that I brought sort of a different perspective.
Yeah.
But hey, also it was fantastic, sort of getting sort of learning from them and what sort of their experiences in gaming was, and then how, sort of the sort of 3D modeling and how that fit into it. It was definitely it was good to sort of see the whole spectrum of what you can do with this.
Yeah, totally. And they would have also learnt a lot from you as well, the way that you would have maybe looked at 3D and just other avenues as well, which is good. Yeah. So I guess, sorry. So with that Sentient, how was the interview process? Because you did have a small little job after AIE, as you were saying. What what was the interview process like? And did you have a portfolio? Did you use stuff from AIE or from the other job that you were doing?
Yes, so I sort of in my last 3 months studying second year in AIE, I sort of sent my resume everywhere to a lot of different places, including Sentient Computing, just saying, if you're interested, I love what you're doing, give me a go. Um, so I think only about three of them sort of got back to me and were like, thanks for your enthusiasm, but we don't really need you. Um, so that's sort of when I sort of found other work doing something I wasn't quite as keen on, but hey, graphic design was still, in the industry, and sort of it was learning a lot of different sort of skill sets. So that was still definitely an awesome experience. But about sort of 6 months later, Sentient had a position available, and since my portfolio was sort of on the books, I'd sent them my resume and my portfolio. They were like, "Yes, if you're still interested, come and have an interview with us." So yeah, it was. They worked remotely, so it was an interview over Skype, which was a lot of fun, very daunting, um, but I was able to yeah, most of the work that I was showing them was stuff that I'd done through AIE. Um, but I made sure that I targeted what I was doing in my second year into my portfolio. It would be something that would appeal to sort of a simulation style industry. So it was targeted to work for Sentient.
Yeah. I see now on our screen is a bit of work from the second year at AIE. And so this project here, was this part of your portfolio that you applied with?
Yes, so this was my character project. I knew that I wanted to develop something that would sort of appeal to industry, so therefore make it a robot, and I wanted something that was a sort of something real, so that being able to come up with your own character is fantastic, but in simulation, creativity sort of takes a step back, and realism is the most sort of important thing. You need to get everything accurate. So this is the Dragon Runner, which is in fact an actual unmanned vehicle. So my goal was to make sure to try and recreate that as faithfully as possible. Um, and yes, so I think that was probably the biggest seller on my portfolio, proving that yeah, I can recreate uh, equipment in a realistic and faithful manner, while also making it game ready and usable.
Yeah, it's so good that you already knew what you wanted to go into when you were at AIE, and you were able to then create your portfolio throughout your journey at AIE to go in what you wanted to do, and creating this as your character project. I find that really really interesting. At Sentient Computing, what projects have you worked on? Completed works. Can you explain some of the stuff that you've done?
Yeah, so Sentient's quite a small team. But we do a very diverse range of work. So I've had opportunities to work on quite a lot of different things. We do developments, so a lot of e-learning, which so this is animations, videos, sort of explaining concepts and that sort of thing. We then do more targeted interactive training. So this is sort of VR work, or we do a lot of site inductions for mines, which they're normally about a ream of paper or a PowerPoint an hour long. So what we try and do is we make sort of serious games to make them a lot more engaging. And then we also do things like visualizations. So mine sites being built or developed, how they're going to be put together and what they'll look like, as well as the how different processes work. So we also do digital twins. So that's where we deal with near real-time data and how that basically has an enormous sort of potential uses. So this is where we recreate mine sites down to an engineering level details, the nuts and bolts of a mine site and its plant, and then we then attach sort of the data and information to it, and that's fed through live so that anyone can sort of understand what's happening remotely. So the project that's sort of happening on the screen at the moment is a visualization that we did, which was showing a new system that they were trying to implement, which was for gas detection. So it's trying to take this concept and yeah, visualizing it in a way that they can sort of sell the idea to the less technically minded.
Wow.
So what we do is most of with our sort of animations and that sort of stuff is that we use Unity and we use real-time rendering. So that has been a real advantage in the last couple of years that we've been able to move away from traditional rendering, sort of been, using Maya and that sort of stuff, and going into being able to do real-time renderings. Therefore, this animation, which could take, I don't know, up to a day to render with all the different scenes and foliage and that sort of stuff, will normally take about 10 minutes in real-time rendering. So that's been able to give us sort of a real advantage in the space and be able to sort of work very iteratively.
Nice. That's looking super cool. I thought I'd just jump in because I'm really loving what I'm seeing on screen. And if anyone else has any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat and we'll try and pull them up on screen and see if Madeleine's able to answer them. How much of what you're creating do you have to know? Like, do you have to know exactly how all the pieces work together, or are you given like just enough information so that you're able to then like understand what you would have to visualize?
Yeah, so obviously, depending on different scenarios, it's always different. A lot of the time we're doing with clients and stuff who don't understand what we do. So it's always like pulling teeth, getting what we need for development. But yes, so often you have to work with information about what you're doing. So yeah, developing sort of accurate vehicle motions or different loads on a truck, that sort of thing can be quite difficult because you don't know. So that's where research is like really important, and building great client relationships. So if you're able to have really open sort of communications with your clients, always ask, so you're able to identify what you need from them very early on, so that they have an understanding that what you need, what they can get you. It makes the project work so much easier, and you're able to get what they want to them a lot better. And then there's always you just have to go out there and find that information for yourself. And you do very quickly become experts in different things. I've done a training program, built a 6-month training program for electric trains, autonomous trains, and I now can tell you an awful lot of information about autonomous trains. There's a couple of points where in meetings with the clients, I'll be telling them what they need to be putting in, because I've been going through the information so often that it's embedded in, whereas it was, so yeah, so you have to. Clients are normally very understanding about the fact that you don't know what they're doing, but they will always be pleased if you take that extra step and try and learn as much as possible and engage with what you're doing as much as possible.
Okay, so you work with a range of different peoples, like scientists and engineers and everything else in between.
So everything else in between, yeah, absolutely. So the focus is we mostly work with learning development people within large companies. So we'll be talking to the people so that they'll outline what they need. They find a problem, they need to train people in X or Y, and then they'll come to us. And so we're normally working with them. Project managers are another sort of generally the people that we talk a lot with, because sort of they're the people who the subject matter experts that we need to be sort of mining for information. Yeah.
Cool. And like obviously a lot of this stuff is very much next to the real world, and it's simulating obviously the real world. What's it like as like creative freedom and being an artist? How do you feel about doing real life stuff? Because I know like a lot of people who come to AIE, they want to make open world first person shooters with horns and unicorns and stuff like that,
Yeah,
being like quite
yeah.
creative and out there. How do you feel about your creative freedom in this sort of area?
So you definitely have win some, lose some. For me personally, I'm not a creative person. Well, my joy is recreating the world and getting things accurate. So if that's
Yeah.
what you enjoy doing, this is definitely somewhere that you'll thrive. Um, but in terms of creativity and that sort of thing, again, a lot of the time, the client knows what they want the end result to be, and it's your job to interpret that into a product. So, yeah, if you're looking sort of at the environments at the moment on screen, we've been given we need to have a construction site, we need an oil rig, and we need a mining plant. That's your brief. Go away and make that. So you are constrained in that you have to create something real world, but you get a little bit of your own control in how you put that together and in those sorts of elements.
Okay. And a team like the video that we're seeing now, how many would be in your team that built that art assets?
Yeah. So I think for this project we had a team of about three, and that's not full time. So we had one full time developer, so putting all the functionality together. We then had one artist who worked on the construction scene, and then the all of the interactive elements, and then the other two scenes were put together by myself.
Okay. Wow.
Um,
So quite a small team.
yeah, yeah. And look, most projects would have probably 1 to 2 people on them.
Okay.
If that's for like a video or e-learning. If you're working with an interactive build, then you'll probably have three: one developer, 1 to 2 artists.
Okay.
So
And
we're often doing small. It's you have a very short delivery time, and it's like and fast and quite iterative.
okay. Yes, so super fast turnaround for a lot of these projects. So what does your day to days look like?
So day to days, um, so I'd say most of the time I'm working on sort of 1 to 2 projects, maybe up to three. Uh, it's a balance of we have like internal tracking sort of task management systems, which all of our developers hate, but they have to do it. So, uh, a lot of tools like Hack and Plan and Trello are tools that we use as well because they've worked so well in the games industry. Why not sort of leverage that? Um, so we'd be managing priorities from those uh, projects with the highest closest deadlines, or normally have to be focused on first. So general flow of a project will the client will come to us with a problem, or they want will either they'll come to us with a storyboard, or we'll work with them on developing a storyboard. We'll then quote the project. Um, so sort of having an understanding of how long you work, and what time will take for each task is really valuable. And your if you've got a sort of an accurate sort of internal clock, your admin staff will love you, because that just makes quoting so much easier, and you're less likely to burn through money on a project that way. So then once we've coded and they're good to go, we'll normally put together something really quick and rough, that that will cover the project. So we'll do sort of a previs of what the video will look like, or we'll block in all of the interactive elements on a game design. And from there, go through a review process with the client. So once we've got something in a rough state, we'll send that to the client. We'll make sure that they're happy with the direction we're going. None of the things that, obviously we don't understand. Nothing's like fundamentally wrong and we have to go back and change. And then we'll go through probably about 3 of those processes, just refining until we've sort of polished everything up. We get voice artists coming in and recording, and then sending off the final product to them.
Wow. And do you find that I know a lot of people always ask, like, are they long days and do you have to stay back all the time and do heaps of work? Do you find yourself doing long days in this role?
It depends. So when a deadline's looming, you do have to, if the hours, you need to put the hours in that's required to deliver. So sometimes that does mean long days. However, look, I've got a really great team and bosses that understand sort of the human limit. So you've got to sort of manage client expectations is probably the most important thing. So if you're always upfront and honest about sort of where the project is, and if a deadline isn't going to happen, talking to your client really quickly about that. You've got to make sure that you're working smartly. You're not pushing it too much. So I wouldn't say 9 to 5 is the norm. With very
communication is key.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So because you studied at AIE, which a lot of times, a lot of the people who are interested in getting into games and things like that, you did say that you work in the Unity game engine. So what do you think is the difference between developing for simulation to a video game?
Well, if you're working on a serious game, nothing. It's pretty much the same. When doing things like digital twins and that sort of stuff, you've kind of got to go through a different process. So we work a lot with CAD files. So these are like engineering drawings that will have an entire plant, which is massive amounts of equipment, and it's got details right down to the bolt. And they're not modeled smartly. They're modeled for CAD programs, so they don't work in engine well. They crash everything. So quite a different sort of process is optimizing CAD models to work in game engines. So that's something that you probably wouldn't see a lot in sort of the game industry as much as you do in simulation. I think another thing is that often we're developing for most mind systems they have essential programs that can only work on Windows 98. So often we're working with really old tech, so we have to work with really low end systems. Another problem is that their default browser, and in fact normally their only browser, is Internet Explorer. So when trying to develop WebGL games or that sort of thing, it's hard. It's a hard limit that we have to work around.
Never think we would be back there again.
No. Yeah.
So just another question that just kind of sprang to mind is, because you applied for AIE to study game art or 3D modeling and stuff, and you did a few little courses before, how did you, the process, so for those that are watching at home, to get into AIE, it's based on a portfolio and an interview. Because you were going to a game school, were you nervous about bringing in your portfolio? What did you put in your portfolio to get into AIE?
Yeah, so I was lucky that I had a very big portfolio coming in. I had a lot of things, probably too much. I did not trim out the bad stuff. It was a lot of not good things, but I showed a lot of diversity in work, and I think what really sold my portfolio was some sort of not cloth simulations, but sort of experiments that I'd done trying to, recreate the ripples and cloth and that sort of stuff, doing it a completely stupid way, but it was sort of just showed the different sort of experiment and the keenness of artistic creativity that I wanted to put into 3D
Yeah, I'm sure we
modeling.
wouldn't get that. I'm sure we wouldn't get that many people trying to do cloth simulation in their portfolio. So that's pretty impressive from the get-go.
Yeah,
That's pretty
yeah, that was fun. I was trying to recreate a Romeo and Juliet style clothing.
Wow. We're coming to the end of our live stream, so I've just got like a couple of quick ones. Where do you see yourself in maybe like 5 to 10 years?
So I'm super keen about VR. I've really enjoyed all of the work that I've done in that space, and I definitely think that in terms of training, that's going to be the future. It's got so much potential, and it's sort of since the Oculus Quest came out, it's suddenly so much more usable. So I think it's definitely the future, and I'd like to be more involved in that.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
And maybe anyone out there that's watching who might be interested in getting into the simulation world, do you have any advice for them? Words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom. I would say that, yeah, in terms of sort of art development, focus on trying to recreate the world around you as accurately and as minute detail as possible. That just, it'll make you shine. I think one of the most valuable things coming into that is that work on having a great sort of organizational soft skills are probably very important as well. You're more likely to have sort of client relationships, and these are going to be sort of in the mining industry, not in the gaming industry. So you've kind of got to work on sort of people skills, being able to talk well in meetings and explain very concepts that you seem very simple to a layman. I think being able to effectively communicate, that's very important.
Oh, that's so interesting. And one last question from me. Are you having fun?
I am having lots of fun. Yes.
Yeah, that's what we like to hear. Yeah, well, that's like, I had a whole bunch of other questions I wanted to ask, but all the information that you've given today is, I'm sold. I want to go into the simulation industry. It sounds so interesting working with a whole range of different people and learning from scientists, engineers, and everyone in between. It sounds so awesome. And thank you so much, Madeleine, for coming in and not coming in, well, joining us. Thank you. Craig, I think.
Having me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I just wanted to share some stuff. So we had like, I'm going to stuff up your name, sorry, Nandriana, saying stuff like, great work, congratulations. Marcel, also keen from the looks of things. Whoop, let's just bring that down. Also keen to check out the simulation space. One question that I guess you can both try and have a quick stab at. Anissa wants to know, where can we find out more about replicating this for vet in schools? As far as actual stuff for studying, Jess might be able to talk about cool courses that people can do. But then Madeleine, if you had any tips for teachers maybe wanting to teach some simulation to their students, if there's anything that they could do. I guess Jess first.
So AIE does provide EVET courses all around Australia, both online or on campus. Talk to your careers advisor. This is a great step into getting into 3D modelling or even programming, game design, and then that's just your next step into possibly doing one of our advanced diplomas and then moving on into the industry.
And then being cool like Madeleine. And Madeleine, if a teacher wanted to try and bring in some simulation into their class, is it just a case of like experimenting with a bit of Unity or looking at around them to try bringing that into the classroom?
Yeah, I think Unity as a program has a lot of great tools and stuff supporting the simulation in space. So there's definitely resources out there.
Cool. Nice. and some fantastic AA resources, if I don't say so myself. Before we let everyone head off, I just wanted to quickly draw your attention to next week, where it will be on the 25th of June, same time. We're going to have AA grad Jake Dobby taking us through some of his career working on the visual effects for film. Definitely tune in for that. You can head to the AA website for more information and to get a reminder. Links to that are already on our YouTube page and will go up to Facebook probably tomorrow. And then the other thing that you're going to want to check out, there we go, is Info Evening. So coming up this Thursday, check in with your local campus. We'll be having a bunch of info evenings on site in Canberra, Sydney and Adelaide. We'll be making sure that we follow all the latest guidelines as far as social distancing. So making sure that you register will allow us to know how many people will be on campus and make sure that we keep that to the required amount. If you are based in Melbourne, we'll actually be running an online event for you. So make sure you head to the website and check that out as well. But that's it from us. Thank you so much, Madeleine, for spending some of your evening with us. I hope it's been interesting for people out there. I know even when you were a student on campus and you were always talking about simulation, I always found it very fascinating because it's a pathway, again, I don't think enough people are keeping an eye out, but it's definitely something I think more people should keep an eye on. Cool. Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Thank you. Thanks, Madeleine. Bye, everyone.